The fire of 1929 in Lansing, Michigan, didn't go out with the morning rain. It kept burning inside Malcolm Little, a boy just 4 years old who woke up choking on thick smoke, dragged into the freezing yard by his panicked parents while watching his only home turn to orange ash against the night sky. White neighbors watched from a distance, arms crossed, offering no water or shelter. Local police showed up hours later, asked vague questions, and filed the case as a domestic accident. Rumors pointed to the Black Legion, a racist militia terrorizing black families across the state, but nobody was arrested, nobody paid, nobody apologized. That impunity taught Malcolm the first brutal lesson of America. Protection wasn't a universal right. It was a privilege painted white. 2 years later, in 1931, came the second blow. Earl Little, Malcolm's father, a Baptist minister and devoted follower of Marcus Garvey, was found dead on the streetcar tracks in East Lansing. Police declared it an accident. He supposedly stumbled drunk and was crushed by steel wheels. But Earl weighed 200 pounds, had a skull fractured at the back of his head, and his body was found too far from the point of impact. Louise Little, the Jamaican mother with light skin and an indomitable spirit, always believed it was murder. And the insurance company Earl had contracted, anticipating exactly this type of tragedy, denied payment, claiming suicide. Louise was left alone with 8 children, no steady income, and a pile of bills accumulating like heavy Michigan winter snow. She fought tooth and nail, sewed clothes at night under candlelight, sold vegetables grown in her tiny yard, refused welfare coupons because she said the state wanted to control her dignity. But the system was patient and relentless. White social workers began routine visits to the little home, noting dirt on the floor, barefoot children, signs of emotional instability in the mother. In 1939, Louise was forcibly committed to Kalamazoo State Hospital, diagnosed as paranoid. Malcolm, at 13, watched his mother being led away in handcuffs by 2 men in white coats, screaming that it was a setup, that they wanted to destroy the family. The 8 siblings were scattered like shuffled playing cards. Malcolm went to Mason, Michigan, sent to the foster home of the Gohanas, white Methodist farmers who needed cheap labor disguised as Christian charity. Life in Mason was a routine of silent survival. Malcolm woke at 4 in the morning to milk cows in the freezing barn, picked corn until his arms ached, cleaned pig pens reeking of manure. In return, he got a hard bed in the dusty attic, oatmeal for breakfast, and patched up clothes handed down from the Gohanas' biological sons. The Gohanas weren't cruel in a physical sense. They didn't beat him, didn't yell. But Malcolm was an exotic mascot, not a son. "Good boy," they told neighbors, while locking the pantry at night as a precaution. At Mason Junior High, 99% white, Malcolm excelled academically. Class president, debate team captain, perfect grades in English and math. But he learned daily microaggressions as unwritten curriculum lessons. "You speak well for a colored boy," teachers praised. "Don't you smell like the farm?" Classmates laughed. He smiled, bowed his head, swallowed the rage, survived by shrinking to fit the racial space they allowed him to occupy. At 15, in 1940, came the breaking point that would change his trajectory forever. In the vocational counseling room, Mr. Ostrowski, a middle-aged Polish man with crooked glasses and a wool tie, asked each student about their professional dreams. When Malcolm's turn came, he answered without hesitation, eyes shining. "I want to be a lawyer." The room fell into awkward silence. Ostrowski tilted his head, visibly hesitated, then said with that professorial calm that cuts deeper than any slap, "Malcolm, look, you're one of our best students, maybe the smartest in the class. But a lawyer? That's not realistic for someone like you. Think about carpentry, masonry, something practical where you work with your hands. You'd be excellent at that." That word, practical, echoed in Malcolm's ears for years. It wasn't immediate anger he felt. It was cold, crystalline understanding. America's ceiling wasn't invisible to him. It was visible, reinforced with racial steel beams. Blacks could be manual laborers, entertainers, loyal servants, but judges, lawyers, leaders, that required permission that would never be granted. Malcolm didn't argue with Ostrowski. He absorbed the lesson like acid burning internal tissue and dropped out of school mid-semester. At 16, in the summer of 1941, Malcolm fled to Boston, drawn by his half-sister Ella Little Collins, a 25-year-old black entrepreneur who lived in Roxbury, Boston's vibrant black heart. Roxbury exploded in Malcolm's senses like fireworks, paved streets full of pulsating black life, men in three-piece zoot suits with wide pants swinging at their hips, gold chains jingling, fedora hats tilted at angles of absolute confidence. Women in tight red dresses, hair straightened in shiny permanent waves, high heels echoing on concrete like freedom drums. From the speakers of juke joints came the revolutionary sound of bebop. Charlie Parker's sharp saxophones piercing the air, Dizzy Gillespie's wild trumpets defying every known melodic rule. Buicks and Cadillacs parked at dramatic angles in front of beauty salons and barbershops. It wasn't the suffocating rural poverty of Lansing or the white coldness of Mason. It was Harlem transplanted to Massachusetts, the vibrant illusion of urban black freedom. Malcolm, hungry for identity and belonging, dove headfirst into that seductive world. He started as a shoeshine boy in the elegant apartments of Back Bay's wealthy whites, polishing Oxford shoes of lawyers and doctors while overhearing conversations that revealed the deep hypocrisies of liberal America. Those Roxbury Negroes are savages, of course, but at least they know how to dance and entertain. Ella, a woman of faith and ambition, tried to anchor him on the respectable path. Baptist church on Sundays, honest jobs, night school. But the irresistible magnetism of the nights was too strong for a wounded teenager seeking validation. He frequented the legendary Roseland Ballroom, where swing orchestras played until dawn and sweaty bodies danced the Lindy Hop until their shoes tore. He tried his first cheap cognac that burned his throat like liquid fire. His first marijuana rolled in old newspaper that made the world spin smooth and slow. His naturally reddish-blonde hair, genetic inheritance from his white paternal grandfather, was processed with a conch in a painful acceptance ritual. Shorty, a skinny Roxbury musician who would become his best friend and crime partner, mixed caustic lye with raw grated sweet potato and thick glycerin, spreading the chemical paste on Malcolm's scalp. The burn was brutal, like 1,000 burning needles piercing each follicle. Malcolm bit a damp towel to keep from screaming, tears flowing involuntarily as the mixture corroded his head for 2 endless hours. The result? Perfectly straight reddish hair, elegant, acceptable, according to the aesthetic standards of the time. Detroit Red was born in that barber chair. The nickname evoked the legendary red-haired hustlers of Motor City, and Malcolm fully adopted the persona. Hustler's uniform, striped pants falling to the floor, brown and white two-tone shoes, wide fake silk tie, .32 caliber pistol borrowed from Shorty hidden in his waistband. In 1943, at just 18 years old, Detroit Red heard the irresistible call, Harlem, New York, the absolute mecca of Black America. He took a Greyhound bus with $20 in his pocket and arrived at Penn Station amid the glorious chaos of the city. Yellow taxis honking impatiently, Times Square flashing Coca-Cola ads in giant neon, soldiers returning from World War II filling the sidewalks. He rode the A train straight to 125th Street. Harlem was everything Roxbury promised multiplied by 10, 400,000 black souls compressed into 2 square miles of boiling, pulsating concrete. Lenox Avenue was a permanent sensory carnival. Street vendors shouting hot peanuts, hot dogs, barefoot children playing ball with bottle caps between taxis, Nation of Islam street preachers with megaphones proclaiming, "The white man is the devil," while blues musicians played out-of-tune guitars on corners for coins. The smell was an impossible mixture. Fried chicken from Wells Supper Club, hot dogs from metal carts, French arpège perfume from elegant prostitutes, sour urine in dark alleys. Malcolm got a respectable day job as a waiter at the iconic Jimmy's Chickens and Waffles on 125th Street, wearing an impeccable white apron and serving steaming plates to living legends. Billie Holiday with sad eyes ordering extra whiskey between bites, Duke Ellington whistling melodies while waiting for his syrup waffles, Cab Calloway scribbling lyrics on paper napkins. The day was a facade of respectability. The night was a criminal empire. Malcolm dove into the numbers game, the illegal lottery that moved millions of dollars in the black community completely outside the reach of racist white banks. Pool halls reeked of male sweat, Egyptian cigarette smoke, and defeat. Men in crumpled hats bet their last dollars on lucky numbers drawn from mystical dream books. Drugs flowed like underground rivers, reefer in giant joints called bombs, fine cocaine powder sold in nickel bags, heroin for the desperate shaking in alleys. Malcolm, now 19, became an official pimp, managing 4 girls promised a life of luxury but delivered to misery. Cheap rooms in 135th Street hotels, him taking 40% of the profit. He wore gray, waterproof gabardine, wide striped tie, fake diamond ring that sparkled under neon lights. He drove a 1939 Packard stolen from Upper East Side garages using a heated wire key on the dashboard. The peak came in 1945. Detroit Red had a reserved table at the legendary Count Basie's, played blackjack with drunk white tourists who lost $100 an hour, went on insane joyrides stealing Cadillac Fleetwoods from rich Jews on Riverside Drive, accelerating to 100 miles per hour on the West Side Highway with girls screaming terrified in the back seat. Robberies were meticulously planned. He watched empty Park Avenue apartments during summer when rich owners fled to the Hamptons, entered through rusty fire escapes, broke open safes with crowbars, $5,000 in cash, hanging mink furs, diamonds in velvet jeweler boxes. Sold everything at Sammy's underground pawn shop on 8th Avenue for 20 cents on the actual market value. The fall came brutal and inevitable in the spring of 1946. At 20 years old, Malcolm led a biracial burglary ring, him as the brain, Shorty as muscle, Sophia, a blonde, white high society debutante from Roxbury, who became obsession and trophy, as bait and accomplice. They invaded summer homes of wealthy Jews in Roxbury. On the night of April 15th, they broke into Dr. Berman's residence, stealing a safe with $2,000, Patek Philippe watches, and a mink coat. Police set a trap using an informant infiltrated in a pawn shop. Massive raid on April 22nd in a Columbus Avenue apartment. Marijuana smoke, poker tables, $800 scattered on the floor. Boston Globe newspapers screamed sensationalist headlines, Negro gangster and white heiress, forbidden love and crime. The trial in May 1946 at Boston Superior Court was a perfect media circus. Shorty got 1 year suspended. Sophia got out on $5,000 bail that her wealthy parents paid immediately. Malcolm, with a heavy prior criminal record, was sentenced to 8 to 10 years at Concord Reformatory. Final, brutal lesson from the streets. Even in the world of crime, American justice was selectively racist. He entered the infamous Charlestown State Prison in handcuffs, thin, bloodshot eyes, barely contained fury in his chest. Detroit Red was dead. But Malcolm X hadn't been born yet. That would happen between those damp, gray concrete walls, where books would become weapons more powerful than any gun he ever wielded on the streets. And that's exactly where the real revolution begins. Because the man who entered that prison as a criminal addicted to rage and drugs would walk out transformed into one of the most powerful and feared voices in America. The boy who lost everything, home, father, mother, dreams, would finally find his ultimate weapon, knowledge. And when Malcolm X walked out of those bars in 1952, he was no longer running from the system. He was coming to confront it head-on, word by word, speech by speech. But that brutal transformation inside prison, that's the next chapter. Comment next if you want to see how a man is reborn behind iron bars. And subscribe to the channel because Malcolm X's story is just beginning. Drop that. Like if this episode impacted you. See you in the next episode. The birth of Malcolm X, the voice that awakened a nation.